Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is February 2nd, 2025. Good day, lovely day, the best day, huge day, incredible day. February is going to be a real good month. First off, it is the month my mother was born. She was born February 27th. So we'll all wish her a happy birthday on that day. It is the shortest month, but oftentimes one of the busiest months because people start waking up from January and they say, "Oh, holy shit, we got actual work to do," and everybody's back in the full swing of things. They stop going to the gym too. Although I'm working out every day, really pushing hard. Got to lose some of this weight. Keep saying it, keep getting busy, but I got something coming up in April that's quite dangerous, and I need to be in the best of shape to be able to do it. And it will be fun. We're still working on some of the deals that are under NDA. Can't say anything yet, but some momentum on it, broadening the scope a little bit, having some fun with it. We'll see where it takes us. There's no huge urgency, but we're getting it done. And meeting a very special person towards the end of the month. Can't say who it is, but just getting stuff set up for that. So it's February is going to be a good month. We're getting things done. So overall, I'm really proud of this year. We got the Plum and Hard Fork out, and almost immediately people started participating in governance. There are three big things we got to get done. And those three big things are essential for the self determination and integrity of Cardano. Now that we have a full on chain government, we have a mechanism to get consent of the governed. And the consent of the governed has to be applied towards fundamental rights, strategy, and execution. So, fundamental rights is the Constitution. That's beginning the process all throughout this month. There'll be a ton of debate and dialogue, but the Constitution is already a pretty good consensus document, as evidenced by 2 years of work, 65 workshops, 50 countries, and the convention. Less of a consensus is the strategy and the execution. So the strategy is the roadmap. Where do we want to go as a product? We worked with Intersect and published a roadmap, not the roadmap. We think it's a pretty good consensus of the community as a whole. But the next step is after people read it, the DREPs come on board and they get their feet wet. More than happy to have engaging conversations with them. And we need to get an info action, get the roadmap ratified. Then it becomes the roadmap as consented by the government. And what'll happen is horse trading. People add things, take things out. The budget is the same artifact. So Intersect is going to be publishing a budget. And what'll happen is that many entities are going to publish budgets more likely than not. And the DREPs are going to have to form a working group with the institutions and basically discuss about consolidation. So this is what happens in a normal budget process when you look at like the Ways and Means Committee or other things in big governments is that one group of people take first crack at it. They kind of get it in the neighborhood. And so the current budget, I think, is 84 pages, and there's a lot of discussion about how oversight's going to work and what's things going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. That's in the neighborhood of correctness, but there's almost certainly some people that won't be happy. So those people who aren't happy are going to propose their own budgets, and then there's going to be kind of a consolidation of that. So things will blend together. So I fully expect that process to take about 2 to 3 months. But once it's done, we have a process and we can begin that process actually in the fourth quarter of this year for next year, which means that we can get a budget approved annually and push it through. And it's the same for a roadmap. One of the line items I recommended to Intersect was continuing the workshops that we did because I wanted to make sure that people were consulted everywhere, regardless of how much ADA they have or if they speak English or not. The Constitutional Convention was the product of 50 countries. You saw all the flags there and all the representatives. It's very important that the workshops come to you at your country to talk about the product roadmap, to talk about the budget, and the strategy of Cardano as a whole, these types of things. And so that consensus can percolate up and be aggregated together through a budget reconciliation process on an annual basis. A lot of hot topics. Patrick Tobler, for example, brought up the idea of using smart contracts. I think it's a great idea for the budget process and how I think it ought to be done. And we can innovate a little bit. It'll take a little bit of time, but the ADA side will already be done. Is that when vendors get paid, they can choose to accept ADA or stablecoins issued in the Cardano ecosystem. Now, both of those are assets in the Cardano ecosystem. So after the budget comes through, it makes sense to put those funds in a smart contract and then have those smart contracts auto pay in increments for the work done, and then have governance keys that allow that to be turned off in the event of an audit or oversight issue. You could put both USDM and USDA as well as ADA in that type of contract. And you let the firm decide if they want to take the volatility risk or not and be bullish on ADA or bearish on ADA, or maybe they're just not in the financial position to do so. Now, the advantage of this is if there's any funds left over in the smart contract at the end of the year, we already have a feature to donate ADA back to the treasury. So the smart contract can just sweep the remaining balance into the treasury to be reused. This also guarantees that the ADA can't be used for staking or governance participation. Now, we also could add a feature, and this is an interesting conversation into the ecosystem, to let people donate Cardano native assets to the treasury as well. So conceivably, the treasury could actually hold stablecoins or Bitcoin or other assets. It's an interesting conversation. And to get it started, it does make sense to say perhaps the treasury should hold a little bit of that. So it's an interesting thing. So Intersect was set up to facilitate these types of things. There are other entities that can facilitate these things, like Brevin Howard, for example. So there's dozens of administrators, even a multi-sig group could be selected. That's kind of the discussion and the reconciliation consolidation is what is the governance and oversight, the amount, the quantity of people being paid, scopes of work, how do they get paid? Is it monthly or quarterly? Do they get paid in ADA or a stable coin? What stable coins to use if we do that? It's a lot of details. And so that has to be derived from a strategy. The strategy will be the product roadmap. And so this product roadmap also has to be ratified through an info action. So these are all things to discuss. I also put a poll out recently where I asked, would people be okay with converting a percentage of the treasury, perhaps income to it, maybe 5 or 10%, into stable coins and having an external firm manage that so that we can improve stablecoin liquidity. And when I say external firm manage, what I'm saying is they actively participate in Cardano DeFi and actually achieve TVL. The advantage with this is that if there are profits made, the profits could then be converted to ADA and donated back to the treasury. And also, this would increase the amount of minted stablecoins in the Cardano ecosystem and the amount of activity with TVL and liquidity inside the ecosystem, making it much easier to argue that CNT should be listed on exchanges. So that's something up for debate. It hasn't been proposed in the Intersect budget or any other place. But if you guys are very interested in it, and people are actually want to talk about it, I'm more than happy to have a workshop and bring people from the community together to see how something like that would work, and be appropriate. And so, just let JJ Seiler know, my chief of staff, and we can absolutely set up a summit at University of Wyoming or at the office here in Longmont. People can fly out. We can talk about it for a few days and make a proposal to the community. It's important to understand that when I say we're governed now, we are. The DREPs are in charge, and the Constitutional Committee is in charge. Cardano has a government, and the DREPs are starting to really realize that. Some of them privately reached out to me and said, "Hey, wow, I actually have a vote. I think I have too much of a power." I said, "Don't worry about it. You'll do fine." That's an exciting thing because for the first time ever, we really, as founding entities, have counterparties to talk to and negotiate with and say, "Okay, well, here's what we think you should do." And they say, "Actually, no, I think we should go this way." So if you're delegating the DREPs, we're starting precedents now about your expectations as delegators of communication and explanation. It should be the case that the people you delegate to communicate with you on a regular basis and are accountable to you. And when they do things, whether you agree or disagree with them, they owe you an explanation why they voted one way or the other way. And that's fine. And however they choose to do that, it's your taste and preference. The magic of this is there's no central authority who says this is the way they must behave. Everything is voluntary and standards based when you think about it, which is a really powerful thing. And we're learning as we go. I love the workshops because they bring people together. I think we can do them perpetually for improving the Constitution for future versions, for improving the roadmap, improving the product function, and improving the budget function. How much of the budget should we spend annually for this continuous quality improvement and inclusivity and bring everybody along? 1% of the budget, 5% of the budget, 10% of the budget. This is the kind of stuff that has to be discussed. Incumbent in the recommendations that will come out of Intersect that we worked on amongst many others is a recommendation of what those percentages should be. But by no means is that the final say. The D-reps now get a say, and you elected them, and they're going to be very direct in many cases about their preferences or umbrage of the process, and we fully expect that. So, as long as we can disagree without being disagreeable and push the ball along, I do believe there is a very strong possibility that within 90 to 120 days, we will have a ratified constitution, roadmap, and budget, and a process upon which to improve the 2026 stuff. And we're moving along. When you look at the roadmap that we published, that roadmap, it includes pretty much everything you guys want. Midgard and Laos, making Laos a first-class citizen. And in fact, I told the dev teams, let's try to find a way with Laos to implement it after prototype 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Meaning that we'll have stacked dev teams, some working the day shift, some working the night shift, and some working weekends, night and day. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the code is being written. This has never been done before in the history of a cryptocurrency project, but I think it conveys the seriousness upon which we need that protocol because it'll basically make us one of the fastest cryptocurrencies in the world. And with Midgard and rollups, that will also give us the fastest layer 2 ecosystem and a much superior layer 2 ecosystem to the one from Ethereum because of extended UTXO's unique security properties. And so I think we're really tracking the right thing. Anastasia is working very hard. They're scaling up to 15 full-time people. And I think they have a real good shot at getting something to mainnet this year. Hydra continues to grow. We're going to have a lot of Hydra goodies on mainnet come Rare Evo. And also, we're exploring how to merge Hydra with the Lightning Network and create Lightning Hydra so that that Bitcoin relationship strengthens. We're also looking at Bitcoin DeFi as a first-class citizen. Whether the roadmap passes or not, I'm just going to do that because I think that's cool and it's a good idea. And we can get that done. And we'll have our first demo in May at Bitcoin 2025. So a lot of stuff happening. A few more things. The Wyoming stablecoin issue. As you know, I started a PAC. We've started staffing it. We're getting involved. And we had a great reception with about 24 lawmakers, give or take. And they were quite surprised about what happened, and some were quite disgusted about what happened. Wyoming does not have a place for corruption. I still believe that Wyoming is a great state to incorporate a business in, but I know that sometimes when vigilance isn't there and character isn't there, that bad things happen and sneak their way in. Lawmakers were quite surprised, for example, that they only allocated $5.8 million for the state to compete against Tether, who just announced that they made $13 billion last year. And they're on more than 200 exchanges. And Circle, which made about the same, give or take. And they're on the same liquidity. Doesn't seem very wise to pick a fight with such giants and do so in a competitive model where every time the executive director really needs anything, he has to go and get a law passed or a new budget allocated, and that might take months to years to get done. That's not really a competitive endeavor. In fact, the University of Wyoming just published a report saying that they believe that the stablecoin will lose money. Notwithstanding the nepotistic corrupt process that was followed, that excluded Bitcoin, which Tether just announced they're launching the stablecoin on, XRP, which just launched Real USD, regulated by the NYDFS, obviously Cardano, Hedera, Hashgraph, Algorand, ICP, and thousands of others. The only ones included were Ethereum, the layer 2 ecosystem there, and some of the things touched by the Circle ecosystem, like Sui, for example, which they just launched on, and Stellar, which started as a fork of Ripple. And it's pretty curious how Stellar qualifies and Ripple does not. I thought XRP has been around longer, and they're certainly meeting with the president. So it won't stand. Procurement has to change. That's the really core of it. Procurement wasn't followed. For those who weren't following this, to remind you, we were told again and again it would be an open process. The requirements would be publicly published. We would build demo and demonstrate we satisfied to qualify. Instead, the opposite happened. The requirements were kept hidden. We didn't know what was disqualifying versus qualifying. We were given no opportunity to build or demo anything. The executive director, who was a former employee of Consensus, decided to work and rate all of us. And he said that Cardano didn't have fundamental capabilities. Not only do we have those capabilities, freeze and seize, they're implemented as a smart contract through SIP 113. It's a smart contract. It does not require a hard fork. It's code, just like ERC20 does not require a hard fork. We demoed with the University of Wyoming on the 31st this capability. The executive director was in the audience. Instead of conceding that he got it wrong, he seemed to imply that the demo was a fraud and we were lying. And it just shows a profound level of ignorance about how basic cryptocurrency things work. And it's pretty sad that the people of Wyoming now have to lose money on this project with such incredibly poor leadership. I do firmly believe that the lawmakers will do the right thing and defund this project and start over. And I do also fundamentally believe that it's not in the interest of the people of Wyoming to build, because of the criteria and the rollout of this, what is a functionally a CBDC. Every transaction will be tracked and monitored. The government at any time can freeze and seize your assets, and it's a state issuing it. Doesn't that feel like a CBDC to you? And our current president has said, no, we're not going to do that, and signed an executive order banning it. So I don't know why the state thinks it's a good idea to build a CBDC, but we're going to remind everybody in the state in a very short period of time that that's functionally what they've done. And now, because of procurement, a CBDC where the code will be written by people in Singapore, China, California, New York, perhaps some places in Europe. Okay, I guess that's what the people of Wyoming voted for, although I don't think they knew that they were voting for that. And we'll take that message to them, and the back of that also change procurement in the state. So this just never happens again, because the reality is, in the next 10 years, state of Wyoming is going to be buying AI systems and synthetic biology systems and biotechnology systems and autonomous systems and humanoid robots. And I don't really feel comfortable with Sam Altman coming into the state and basically just setting up a no bid contract for OpenAI to decide all of that. I don't really feel comfortable with Bill Gates coming into the state and with very little oversight building a molten salt nuclear reactor in a small town that's not equipped to regulate or oversee that construction. I just don't. And I don't think the people of Wyoming feel very comfortable about that. So procurement, it's about making sure we don't get screwed. Why do I care above and beyond Cardano? Cardano was never given a fair shake. We weren't even allowed to bid. So when people on that side say that we're a disgruntled vendor, we aren't a vendor because we weren't allowed to be a vendor. We were not allowed to bid. That's this process. We didn't lose an RFP. We didn't miss something. We were disqualified without appeal for a feature we actually have. Just get that through your head, because that's a lie if they say anything else. That's what happened. I'm concerned because I've put hundreds of millions of dollars into the state. My clinic up in Gillette, Wyoming, and my construction company there employ a combined over 250 people. And at the end of this year, we'll have over 120,000 square feet of buildings we constructed, from a state of the art biotechnology lab to a clinic with over 11,000 patients growing to 15,000 patients. This is not a fly by night. I incorporated yesterday and I have a single software engineer and a rent a lawyer operation. We are creating jobs in Wyoming, and we have spent 6 years investing in Wyoming. But according to this commission, we're not even qualified to have a look to compete. And Cardano's crap. So saith Consensus and Ethereum, who Joe Lubin did meet with the executive director. That's a publicly known fact that he admits himself, as did BlackRock with the governor and Circle with the governor, whose general counsel is now one of the commissioners. That doesn't smell bad. I don't know what does. I really don't. So we're going to get this cleaned up, because I want people to come to Wyoming. When Kraken came, it's a $1.5 billion revenue company. They're a great citizen of the state. I have great admiration and respect for Jesse and his people. They're wonderful people. The point of the 40 laws that were passed was to be a neutral body for people to come in and get things done. And, a lot of people answered that call, but it's a very competitive reality. And when Wyoming missteps, people have second guesses about should they incorporate their crypto business there or should they take their jobs and business to Texas. It also makes me wonder, should I continue investing in the state or not if corruption is allowed to come in? If we ever need to do something with the government, for example, we're considering building a medical school around 2030 to 2035 in Gillette. I need to work with the state to do that. I wonder, will that actually happen? Or will corrupt interests from out of town come into place and co opt that process? And maybe I should go build it somewhere else, like Montana or South Dakota, where there is rule of law, because right now we don't have it. So if I have these doubts, living there, having a bison ranch there, putting hundreds of millions of dollars into it, I can't imagine what people who don't have that kind of investment connection to the state do. So we need to change it. And this cancer needs to be cut out. And that's why I set up the Integrity PAC, and we're going to go and make the case. And I firmly believe that the voters of Wyoming will not stand for this. I firmly believe that a lot of lawmakers, once they realize what happened, will not stand for this. And I firmly believe the strongest possible rebuke will occur. And it's not going to just stop at defunding a stablecoin. There absolutely needs to be investigations into how we got here and a fundamental change in the procurement process as a whole. And I'm absolutely going to support governor candidates in 2026 who support that line of thinking. I'm going to support lawmakers who support that line of thinking in every single race in the state. And I don't care if I have to spend $10 million or $30 million. I've already spent hundreds of millions of dollars on my infrastructure in the state. I live there, and I cannot permit corruption and dishonesty to take over the process. So, keep you guys in the loop. There's a lot of great people there, like Ken and Karen and others who have a long legacy in the state. They're real bright, some young and some old, and they're fully prepared to travel. And we're going to be at every rodeo. We're going to be in every kitchen. You'll see some television ads. We'll see some radio ads. We're going to get everybody rallied up. And I have yet to begin to fight. 37 years old and worth a lot of billions of dollars. So if this is my personal mission every year, fighting season, we'll do it. Might take 10 years, might take 20 years. I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I have no patience and tolerance for corruption. I have no patience and tolerance for the state weaponizing its procurement to give people who live in Singapore, in California, New York, the money of the state for something they were told they shall endeavor to use people from the state. Just full stop. So there you have it. And if people want to read more about it, more will be out there. There's actually already a crowdsourced response that the Cardano community is putting together. And I would like to remind all the other ecosystems you were disqualified too, and you have standing for a class action lawsuit. The last resort. We'll see if legislatively things can be better, because we just need to move on. And there has to be an admission that they got this one wrong. And if they do, then actually I think it makes the case Wyoming is the best place to incorporate your business because they can change bad behavior. People hate government because when government does something wrong, and we all do something wrong, we all make mistakes. Government never admits that it made a mistake. They just blithely push on and pretend like they have no accountability. And every now and then, people get so frustrated, just like babies with diapers, they have to change them. Politicians are the same. All right. We'll get to your questions now. Wow, ADA is plummeting. All right. Every single AMA, I get this question. So here's what we're going to do real time. I am going to go to CoinMarketCap. Going to go to CoinMarketCap. Let's take a look here. So here is Cardano. We are down 12%, 18% for the week. Dogecoin's down 22% for the week. BNB's down 9%. Solana's down 20%. So Cardano's outperforming BNB and Solana. XRP's down about the same. Ethereum and Bitcoin have more trading inside of them, so they tend to be a little bit more stunted, but they're down 10% and 7%. 10% of a market cap of that size, that's the entire market cap of Cardano that the Ethereum holders lost. So Cardano's really down so much. We're really losing. You know what it is? It is a market condition. Markets got very excited about Donald Trump being president. and they overbought with this insane belief that somehow everything will instantly go to $250,000 overnight for Bitcoin. It will grow and stuff has to happen. Conversations have to be had, policy has to pass, but it's going to take months to years for that to be fully realized. So the long arc trajectory is that the crypto markets, I think, are going to be very strong. But there's ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs, and that's what we've dealt with again and again and again and again. And people just like to single out, well, today's not doing so well, so that must mean everything's falling apart. You got to widen the aperture and realize that the US government is going to be, in the next 5 years, one of the largest procurers of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. It's entirely possible. Our voting systems, our government procurement systems, our payment systems, our identity systems, and our central bank function, as well as how the US government works with its citizens, all will have some form of blockchain connection within 5 years because of this government. That's the promise. If the US does it, everybody's got to be interoperable with it. So by extension, 20 to 50 countries will adopt the same. We're also talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The US government already holds 212,000 Bitcoin. Did you know that? We hold it through civil asset forfeiture. Normally we sell it. But what if we held it? That's what Senator Lummis is fighting so hard for. And we're going to support her and try to get that done because a strategic Bitcoin reserve is a national priority, I believe. So, yeah, we'll get that done. And by the way, if the US government has a strategic Bitcoin reserve, maybe, just maybe, they're going to want to have some DeFi Bitcoin. And Cardano's here to help. 30, 60 days past. What's going on with the NDA? Still talking. Identity systems with a thumb down. I would much prefer a DID-based self-sovereign identity system with a non-creds that guarantees you own your own identity and data than the current system where the NSA just has everything and the FBI has everything, and they collect all of it through Google and Microsoft and Facebook and these other guys. So many people, they say, "Oh, privacy." I was like, "Well, do you own a cell phone?" "Yes, I do." So you have a recording device you carry with you that tracks everywhere you go, everything you say, and every communication you have is archived and documented and will be used against you for law enforcement purposes at some point in the future if you do anything wrong or there's the perception of it. Well, no, but no, I didn't mean that. Oh, but you have it. Do you use Google? Yeah, I use Google. Do you use Facebook? Yeah, I guess I have a Facebook account. Well, do you use X? Yeah, I guess I that. Do you use YouTube? I know you guys use these things because I'm broadcasting to you. It's the only way you can reach me. Do you know they track you? Do you know they have all your data? You start a self-sovereign identity movement, you have to consent to them seeing something, and you can revoke that consent. Think about that. That's why we got to take it back. You talk with Brian Johnson. I know Brian. I've had calls with him before. He's interested in some token stuff. We'll see if he's serious and what he wants to do, if it's a short term or a long term project, and there's something of real value there. But if it's real value, I'm more than happy to work with him because I just like what he does. I'm actually one of the very few guys in the crypto space that does serious longevity and serious crypto. Most people dabble, but we actually do foundational research with it. So it'd be fun to work with him. How does the paper wallet work? Do you scan the QR code with your mobile phone? If you have a webcam, and when we have the mobile client, it'll be your mobile phone. You can just take your phone or your webcam and scan it. And if you have your PGP key, you can decrypt it. That's the PGP encrypted one. You also can do password protected QR codes, and it'll restore the wallet as well. So there's kind of two flows that exist there, and we're working on both flows, and we're working to add layers of hardware, like for example, YubiKey support, because I think that that would massively improve the security and user experience as well. I want to get to the world where all your commercial interactions are tapping a button, and you have a piece of hardware to facilitate that with a backup with a PIN and a biometric. So you have three-factor authentication, something you have, something you know, and something you are. Super easy, right? 1111, fingerprint, tap, boom, done. Would you say that there could have been more done in Africa? We're still in Africa. This is the thing about the space. So Ethiopia wasn't the best situation. We learned a lot. We did a lot. We got Hyperledger Dentist out of it. And boy, did we master a lot of stuff. And we've transferred that all into an actual company called RealFi, and it's in Kenya right now. The CEO lives there, the people live there, and we've already deployed $5 million for real world assets for actual microfinance products. And those products will be wired in and use Cardano stablecoins, Cardano identity systems, and settle on Cardano rails, and eventually work their way into Lace Wallet, all the other Cardano wallets, where you can click a button like Kiva and make high yields. That's going to bring a lot of liquidity in Cardano. And it required all those relationships we built in Africa to make that happen. So we're still there. It's just we realized that government contracting in Africa is not the way to go. When we entered Ethiopia, it was a promising nation that was deregulating. It was going to end all the government monopolies, open its borders, get rid of capital controls. And the prime minister had just won a Nobel Peace Prize. Fast forward the clock 5 years later, all those promises evaporated, and the government was getting allegations of genocide, amongst other things, with the TPLF, the Tigrayans. That's what happened. We stuck by it. We tried really hard to build something for the kids, and we wrote a long blog post about what happened there, and we learned a lot along the way. And we were able to deploy for a few, tens of thousands, but not for the 5 million. Government just ghosted us. We became not a priority at all the minute that the conflict broke out. And that's what happens with unstable governments and government contracting in these types of places. So what you got to do is you got to move to the private sector. Fast moving consumer goods and microfinance credit systems. These are kind of the killer apps of Africa. And that's what we did. And so RealFi is touching the microfinance market, and it's going to spread across the whole continent. It's going to be in Nigeria. It's going to be in Ghana. We're going to be all around. Take some time. That's why it started in Kenya, but we're very keen to continue the growth of it and get it crypto rails wired in. And it's one of the reasons we built Lace, and it's one of the reasons we built Hyperledger Dentist. We never give up. That's the thing you guys don't get. I've been at this for 10 years. Look at my TED talk. I was a lot younger. We just keep going. We just keep pushing. We just keep building. And so we're not giving up. How is Nike? Nike is doing well. He's a good pig. So this is a good question. When can we wrap Bitcoin native with Midnight? So when Midnight launches, it'll have that ability for CNTs and ADA, which translates to basically being able to get privacy capabilities. So I believe in a crypto triumvirate. When we talk about Doge procuring things, what I've been advocating for is imagine this. You have a black disk. You have the Cardano dots on that in white and a Bitcoin logo in the center. All three technologies together. There's an unbeatable combination. Private smart contracts, built-in identity system, the world's best smart contract system that's going to be ultra high throughput, and Bitcoin's legendary durability, auditability, and value carry. How do you beat that? All those three systems together, the triumvirate. So we're gonna push for that concept of say, let us deploy a multi-chain application. So when we talked about government procurement, payment systems, and all these other things, that is the gold standard. And all three will be fully decentralized. No one's in control. They run themselves. Hey, Charles, regarding Paper Wallet, why back up wallet with PGP when you could derive wallet from PGP keys in the first place? It's about infrastructure. So you can derive from anything, but first off, PGP does not do that type of derivation. You need elliptic curve crypto for an HD wallet. But more importantly, the point of PGP is that there already exists hardware devices. For example, I'll show you one. So this is a YubiKey, and a YubiKey, these devices store PGP keys, and they're super easy to use. You can plug them into your phone, into your laptop. You can plug them into your desktop computer, and you plug it in and you tap it. So in the case of PGP, you plug it in, tap it, enter a PIN code. but your PGP key is securely stored here. So your ability to restore your wallet is then connected to the same thing that gives you two-factor authentication for getting into your email accounts and all these other things. So you have a great user experience. It's literally plug and tap for that. So you have your PGP key, and the flow that I always recommend is you generate it, you store your backup of your PGP key on a encrypted flash drive, like an Iron Key, for example, or one of those Acorns, and you just put that in your safe, and it has a little hardware pin code on it, and if you enter it wrong 10 times, it destroys it. So it's a very secure device. And then you have a YubiKey, and basically this becomes your login thingy, and this plus a password, maybe biometric as well. And they even sell these with biometric sensors as well, like a fingerprint. So when you want to restore your wallet, you can just print out a paper wallet, you have it in your email, whatever, and you scan it with your monitor, click it in, you push a button, and you're restored. Now, decoupling from PGP as the derivation infrastructure means that you can use any cryptocurrency and you can use any signature system, because what PGP is doing is what it does best. It's taking a payload and encrypting that payload, and that's how the entire internet security works at the moment. What's nice about that too is that these hardware keys are a reusable pattern, and the next generation of them will have post quantum. So we're going to add delays at some point, post quantum algorithms that give you the ability to back up your wallet in a way that can't be broken by quantum computers. As the cryptocurrency space moves in that direction, you have end to end security on all things. And so I think that's pretty awesome when you really start putting all those pieces together. Charles never answered my questions. What's your question, Sleeping Bee? Any info on the midnight airdrop? They're getting close to it. They're working real hard right now. Hey, Charles, how's with the Quantum Hosky meetup at the ranch? The workshop was tremendously successful. A lot of wonderful things were talked about, hypervoxels, AI civilizations. It was really special, actually. And a lot of wonderful people came in. Trim is going to write up the output of that. It's due by February 15th internally. If we like it, we are going to kick off a 3-month innovation sprint, and based on that, we'll make the go, no go decision whether we actually want to go all in. And if we want to go all in, then we'll kind of start discussing how we're going to turn it to a partner chain and all these other things. But it'll come after midnight. But we're making great progress on it. And that was one of those things where he said, unless everybody in the room loves it, we'll kill it. And everybody loved it. So we're going to keep going. Will there be nodes for midnight? Of course. It's its own network. What are your thoughts on the cognitive theoretic model of the universe? I think it's that one from that 200 IQ dude. I don't know enough about it. I need to look into it. There's a lot of panpsychism that's leaking its way back into discourse. It's kind of getting a second set of legs. Charles, got any birds up your sleeves? Oh man, I got some. It's gonna make you guys shit your pants, but you'll find out towards the end of the month. You degen bastards. You'll love it. Was Plutus always going to be Turing complete? Can you speak to a history here? Need a citation for my Voltaire paper. It was a pleasure meeting you in Buenos Aires. So the original intent was actually for Plutus to be a DSL, and for the Cardano settlement layer to minimize expressiveness. So it's almost like a quasi fixed function ledger. This is why we did Marlow at the same time as Plutus. And the idea would be that we would have had a Turing complete side chain, all the computations would be run on, and we could bootstrap a fast BFT protocol from the Ouroboros. Might have noticed Ouroboros BFT, for example, it was kind of the beginning of a conversation there. What we learned when we brought people in who were really, really smart about programming language theory is that we could actually do the whole banana and make Cardano maximally programmable at the base ledger. And there, it wasn't really clear what accounting model would win out. So we financed two teams at the same time. One was the extended UTXO, which was led by people like Manuel Chakravarty, who did a phenomenal job, and Phil Wadler, amongst others. And then the other side of it was led by Grigory Roshu, who did Yella and the whole K ecosystem. And then Bruno Paleo designed a paper called Chimeric Ledgers, and the idea was that both sides would be put together and live in the same ecosystem, the same ledger. So you have the best of both worlds. Yella fixed a lot of the problems in the Ethereum ecosystem, and we kind of felt pretty good about interoperability between the EVM and Yella. It wasn't perfect, but transpilation would be non-problematic, and we get all the optimizations from the LLVM. We could never get Yella to work at scale because the ocean strategy was semantic space compilation. And basically, what that meant was that you could take a program from an arbitrary language. And if we had the formal semantics of another language and that language, you could automagically translate between them and it would work on the infrastructure. So the hope was that we could every year support dozens of new programming languages like Python and C++ plus plus and Rust, and then it could all live there in the yellow side of the house. And for your asset issuance and your high assurance applications, they would live on the extended UTXO side. Because we could never get that paradigm to work, and we spent $19 million in like 3 or 4 years. It was so expensive and time consuming, although we did learn a lot and led to the first formal verification of, the Ethereum semantics, the KEVM, for example, which the Ethereum ecosystem is now using. Vitalik talks about it. Somehow Cardano and IO never get mentioned in that. It led to a lot of good in the open source community, but unfortunately, we didn't really get to use that as well as we could, and it kinda makes me sad because, I loved that whole part of the roadmap. But, is what it is. Can't do anything about it. You just move on, and we have the extended UTXO side. Plutus is great, Plinth is great. It's really cool seeing what Aiken has done. That ecosystem's growing at an extraordinary pace, and it's becoming interoperable with things. Through Bitcoin OS, excuse me, Bitcoin DeFi, it's gonna be interoperable with BitVMX, which is RISC-V, which is the next big virtual machine people are pushing for. And there's a lot of ways we can bring EVM interoperability, in. Maybe I can sneak that in with, Quantum Hosky. How likely is our real USD to be implemented? And also, have you talked to David anymore? We talked to David, especially on the midnight side, and Brad as well. Strong possibility that we can negotiate something. We just have to get to it. They told us to wait till March because they had just finished the NYDFS, and that was a very intensive thing. And I said, sure, we'll do that. So we'll pick that back up in a month and a half, and we'll see if there is a roadmap and how they'll get that done. Have you looked into Lars's Project Genius Yield? Lars was at the Quantum Hosky Summit, so yeah, I know very much about it. Do you foresee any collaboration with Dominic and ICP? It's potentially possible. ICP was very unhappy about being excluded. They were one of the best blockchain candidates for what Wyoming wanted to do, and they were excluded for no reason. So it would be interesting to see if perhaps on the litigation side they'd want to come in if we go down that road. But all options are on the table. But overall, there's a lot of good people in that ecosystem. Got great scientists in that ecosystem too. 200 IQ dude equals scammer. I've heard that, but I don't know him personally, and I don't know enough about it to comment on it. Another reason we use PGP, by the way, with the paper wallet is PGP has been around forever. Oh my lord, it's an incredible technology and just so damn resilient. Rogan at the end of the month. No, someone more famous and more impact. Can't say anything though. Thoughts on open sourcing PAC best practices so we can port to other states and local municipalities? One of the first things we'll push for after we're done cleaning the cancer out is the procurement systems, and I'd like to create an open procurement process so that the state doesn't get screwed. So it's very important that that gets done, and I'd love to collaborate with as many people as possible. British Columbia is one example, and there's dozens of others. Is mathematics invented or discovered? A little bit of both. There are fundamental things that seem to come up again and again, and we discover them, and then they inspire us to invent things. The following is a podcast with Charles Hoskinson. I had a lot of fun on Lex. He's really busy these days. He's interviewing game developers right now, and he asked, "Hey, who should I interview?" I said, "Dude, you have to interview Sven Venke. You have to. He's the greatest game developer of all time. So if I've achieved anything in the relationship with Lex Friedman, convincing him to interview Sven is like the best possible outcome because I just want like 5 hours of talking about Baldur's Gate 3. And then him to push Sven a little bit and see if he can get him with his interview jujitsu to reveal like what the next game is because Baldur's Gate 3 is the greatest game of all time, the greatest CRPG of all time. Charles, we need channel memberships. Well, this is another reason I love DIDs. If we integrate those things in, then you can have tiers of people and very easy for people to click a button and subscribe and all that type of stuff. And everything's cryptographically secure. No bots. We want to get rid of those bots. I hate bots. You guys hate bots. Screw those bots. Bots are bad. Okay, let's hear John Linden. Yeah, Linden dollars. Giraffe. Following is a giraffe on Charles's show. Chips Plushy. Will Bitcoin ever be fully native on Cardano? Yes, sir. That's the goal. Love how you do these AMAs during market crashes. That's nothing to do with it. I tend to do them on Sundays when I have free time. Thoughts on the Wolfram Physics project? Wolfram emails me these crazy things, very, very long, and they take a lot of time to read and go through. The dude is the dude's a genius. He's just a true genius. He's every sense of the word. He's a completely original thinker. He's a very deep and detailed and precise thinker, and he also has a mastery of several scientific domains at the same time, which is exceedingly rare. And I don't think Stephen Wolfram gets enough credit in the academic community. They punish people who think outside the box in academia. I mean, you got a guy he's done so much and he has so much knowledge, and oh yeah, it's Stephen Wolfram. We don't pay too much attention to him, and like bring people up like that. You do. That's how you get ahead. It was the same for Claude Shannon or Poincare or others. Any plans to go to Fala Fala this year? I might, or at least Cape Town if I'm in South Africa. I don't know if it's going to take me to South Africa this year. I miss Toomey. He's a good guy. What is that glowing thing? I don't know. It's a glowing thing. It's in the back. I like it. It glows. You guys like my glowing thing? Do you agree with Wolfram that peer review is damaging? I'm not an absolutist, but there are certainly areas where it can be. Is quantum computing a scam? It's a scam. It's a scam, but you gotta have the scammies. Quantum computing is a scam. No more so than fusion or optical computing or other things. Amazing progress has been made. I love Xanadu's products. They're doing a really good job. And Willow came out with Google. There's dozens of innovations every year. The biggest problem with quantum computing is actually the error correction. And that's the hardest part of it. and also getting things to operate without having to be damn close to absolute zero. And that's why I'm a big fan of optical quantum computing because it makes sense how you would have those operate at room temperature, and it makes sense how you'd have those things basically air correct themselves. So I think long term that's the place, but there are dozens of paths to build a quantum computer, and we'll get there. And we'll probably get there in about 10, 20 years with the help of AI. What are your views on the Washington plane crash? Should we blame the helicopter pilot? Now, this is an area I do know a little bit about because I own a Black Hawk helicopter, and it's very unusual for a Black Hawk helicopter to crash into a plane, especially one that's piloted by Army pilots. So, first off, the U.S. Army pilots who fly Black Hawks are the best of the best. They're incredible. They're super smart. They're great professionals. They handle stress really well, and they're constantly put in very dangerous situations, and they have to deal with things that are very unpredictable. Second, the Black Hawk helicopter is a war machine. It's been around for 4 decades. It's an incredibly reliable platform. In fact, when you see the picture of them pulling the Black Hawk out of the Potomac, it was still roughly intact. I can't think of many helicopters that can be literally hit by a passenger jet with 70 people on it, and the Black Hawk frame can survive. So it really shows you how damn durable that thing is. So kudos to Sikorsky for building it. Now, that said, a lot of puzzling things. First off, the altitude was too high. I think they were flying around 400 feet. In that area, it's about 200. The Mike model, which that's what that was, has pretty sophisticated collision detection systems. And there's a variety of reasons they have those because the Black Hawks fly in really bad conditions, like foggy areas, smoke under enemy fire, low visibility, mountain terrain. Look, Afghanistan and Iraq during sandstorms, or Afghanistan, the Kandahar mountain range. So it's surprising to me that those systems were not able to determine that things were happening. Obviously, there seems to be a problem with air traffic control. And the other problem was the flying with night vision goggles in that setting didn't make a lot of sense. It's nighttime, you have to use them, but there's downsides to them because if there's too much ambient light, it lights up like a Christmas tree. So when you go full NVG, you have to be really careful with that. In some cases, your co-pilot is your spotter, and they look under them just to see and make double check if there's something there. So a lot went wrong. Now, aviation accidents are notoriously slow for an investigation. And the problem with this is you're talking about an interagency concern where it's not just the FAA, but the US Army. So I do believe there's going to be an extensive investigation, and it's probably take about 2 to 3 years for that investigation to conclude. Just reconstructing the black box, which they were able to find in the Black Hawk helicopter, will probably take about 6 months to put all that data back together. Now, some people have said that this is a DEI issue, and she wasn't qualified to fly. I have There's no basis in reality to make such a statement. There are plenty of female pilots who fly Black Hawk helicopters. My friend was one who's a 160th, and she was a night stalker and spent her entire career rescuing special forces operators under heavy fire. So just because it's a woman pilot doesn't mean that that was a problem. I think it's more of a situation that all aviation accidents tend to be an aggregation of a collection of factors together: miscommunication, shift changes, equipment failures, you know, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And if any one of those things was just slightly different, it would be a near hit instead of a hit. And it's a tragic situation. And it just shows you how dangerous things can be. Heard, oh, well, people say that the air traffic controllers were all incompetent and bad in Washington, D.C. And I find that hard to believe because the majority of them been there for decades. And these air traffic controllers have to deal with the most complex airspace in the United States. Every time the president of the United States comes in, they shut down the airspace for him. You have a ton of private jets. You have other heads of states coming. You have a lot of military activity, and it's very urban and densely populated with multiple airports. I'm sorry to say, it's not, if you were lightweight, like tons of people would be dying all the time. These people are very good. So probably what happened was a combination of shift changes where the old shift and new shift, handled that handoff right because it's right around that time a shift change would occur and maybe some miscommunications. And also, the military operation that they were doing was a not a transport mission, but rather it was a training mission replicating an unusual mission, a VIP extraction. So, probably a miscoordination between the Army and the ATC, and just things just went wrong, and maybe there was an equipment failure where they got the altitude wrong, and they thought it was 200, but it's actually 400, and, they're very reliable systems, but sometimes they fail. When I saw the videos, I did think that it may be the case that a cybersecurity issue could have occurred, a cyber attack. The reason being is right around the same time the Black Hawk helicopter, and you guys can look this up on Twitter, their F-35 fell out of the sky. And I said, "Holy shit." The pilot had to eject, and it was just spinning and collapsed on the runway and blew up in, Alaska. So when you see military aviation assets behave strangely, that's an interesting thing. And, it doesn't take a lot to hack into those systems and change things subtly. Like, for example, if I was a hacker from China or Russia and I wanted to cause a problem, just changing your altitude settings from 200 to 400, pilots think they're flying at 200, but they're actually flying at 400. That'll do it. That's all you need to do. We're interfering with the night vision goggles or interfering with any of these systems, and most of these systems are remotely controlled now. DARPA did some experiments a few years ago about getting a UH-60 to fly remotely. So, and they're constantly communicating, and it wouldn't surprise me if perhaps those systems got penetrated. It's perhaps a more acceptable answer to the question than the alternative, which is people died for no reason. It's easier to say it was an attack. So I think it's really important to have an objective investigation because there's a tendency for people to want answers like that because at least we kind of feel a little bit better that people don't make mistakes. They're under attack. But it's just a tragic, tragic thing. Having Black Hawk pilots who work for me and they it's a small community and they take these things really seriously and they spent their entire life pursuing excellence and flying in some of the most difficult things and anytime one of these things happens it really hurts them and makes them feel sad and frustrated and angry and it's just sad because the families they senselessly lost all the people they love. Uh, and these were good people. So it is what it is. Have your views on Edward Snowden changed since Trump may have pardoned him? Do you think Trump should? No, I don't. When he left Hawaii, he stole over 1,000,000 classified documents. Some of those documents were connected to PRISM and the surveillance state. And he released those documents to the media, like the Pentagon Papers and things with WikiLeaks and other things before it. That's fine, fair game. The majority of the things he stole, he did not release. So, if he didn't give those things to the media and he took them, why would he then flee to Hong Kong, which is run by China, and later Russia, become a Russian citizen and swear allegiance to Russia? We all know what happened there. Under the hood, he traded that knowledge, that intelligence for protection. That's why they covered him. He's a spy who defected. Happens. They're double agents. We see him from time to time. He took an oath not to do that. Now, if he wanted to be a political person and a political prisoner, what he should have done was go ahead and call a press conference and leak all this stuff. He would have been arrested, and Trump or somebody would have pardoned him at some point. And every day he was in prison, people would complain about it, and he'd be an American hero right now. And we'd all honor his integrity and character. That's what Nelson Mandela did down in South Africa, and many other political prisoners. That's what Martin Luther King was prepared to do as well. And he was arrested several times, fighting for what he believed in. And he didn't care if there were personal consequences and harm to himself. Martin Luther King didn't say the United States is systemically racist and flee to the Soviet Union and make propaganda videos every week about how bad America is and how evil the South is. And he'll return only after the South heals itself. But now we have an expectation we should do this. This is fundamentally different than Ross Ulbricht. Ross committed a crime where the sentencing should have been probably in the magnitude of 5 to 10 years. He served 11 years. He was given a double life sentence for running a website. It was wrong at so many levels, and he needed to be freed and let go. And it's fundamentally different than whistleblowers who find some evidence of foundational government corruption, and they very courageously reveal it, and they take the consequences of it. He wanted to have his cake and eat it too, and he wants to be a hero, and he wants to be in the news every day about how heroic he is and how smart he is and all these things he's done. And I'm sorry, you don't get to steal 1,000,000 classified documents. You can look that up. There was a bipartisan commission that came together to assess the impact of Snowden running away. There was 1,000,000 documents that he took from his time at NSA. And then just go to China. And when they don't bite, go to Russia. And when they bite, become a citizen, swear allegiance to the Russian government, to Vladimir Putin. You have to do that to be a Russian citizen. And, if you think he's a credible guy, then media, go look Edward Snowden in the face and ask him to criticize Vladimir Putin. See what he does. And ask him what happened to Navalny and these other things, if that's okay. And if Putin is a dictator and if he harms his people or if he's not good for his people. And see how welcoming Russia will be if he responds in the way he should. It's hard to be a whistleblower. It really is. And it's not something society is good for. We tend to venerate them after the fact, but we hate and demonize them in the beginning, and they get punished for it, and it sucks. And it's one of the reasons we created Midnight. We wanted to have systems where people can prove they're a member of a set and whistleblow without fear of retaliation, whether it be somebody reporting sexual harassment or leaking a document that shows the government did something against its citizens or a corrupt CEO embezzling money. People fear retaliation from powerful people, and having whistleblower systems are essential. And we need a mechanism for that. But the antidote isn't letting somebody steal 1,000,000 classified documents and flee to Russia and swear allegiance to our enemies. I'm sorry, it's not the remedy. And that is not a hero. Something else. Thoughts on biocomputing? Biocomputing. Very interested in cortical labs. They're racks. You take cells, you put them in, they grow in the petri dish, and the nerves and the neurons, and they do their things. Gonna do the Bill Cosby, doing the things and the neurons in the dish and all the brain computing caused by the rock music and the brain damage. It's pretty cool, actually. Cortical Labs is doing great work. There are others as well. We're going to buy some. We're going to grow some at my lab up in Gillette, and we're trying to get those things talk to computers. And if we can, then I'm going to try to teach it how to play a video game. And that will become a character in Quantum Hosky if we choose to do Quantum Hosky. You seldom do AMAs or videos from home anymore. The reason being is that the place that I did those AMAs, I completely gutted and rebuilt it. So that that's almost done. So you guys will see the new office. It's pretty cool. What is an AMA? It means ask me anything. It means you can ask any question you want, and I choose if and how I want to answer it. Do you think RFK will litigate Big Pharma? Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we gonna have some fun. We gonna have some adventures. Oh, maybe, just maybe, we're gonna ask some difficult questions. They gotta answer. Mm. Does a chalk mess with your sinuses? No, I've had long COVID for a long time. It's been tough. Kamala at the end of the month. I can confirm beyond a reason of a doubt that I am not meeting with Kamala Harris at the end of the month. I will not be unburdened by what has been. uh, Oh, wow, I didn't know they were flying with night vision. Yeah, you gotta run NVG. It was a night flight. Well, we tend not to fly at night for that reason. It's a pain dealing with all that stuff. We are getting NVG kits, and mostly I'm getting them because we use the Black Hawk for night ops for disaster recovery. But just don't roll those dice. Wyoming's a little easier because there's just so little light pollution. But man, when you're at an airport and there's so much going around, it's not a good situation. Which is why you rely a lot on your sensors and your collision detection system. Well, Shane, we're just going to go ahead and ban you and delete your comments there. You got Charles derangement syndrome. You got to go. Yeah, this is an interesting one. So, mainstream media reporting staffing Reagan Airport, air traffic control reportedly not normal at time of collision caused Trump orders Reagan Airport staff layoffs. Uh, we don't know, and this is why you need a bipartisan, objective, neutral investigation to be conducted because who knows what was the root cause of these things. I am not a partisan guy at the end of the day. People are so polarized right now. If you say one positive thing about Trump, then immediately you're MAGA. And if you say one positive thing about Biden, immediately you're a left wing moonbat. Ah, but the reality is, I'm a person and I'm a free thinking person, and mistakes are made. And if you sign executive orders that are very broad, there will be edge cases that create problems. We all accept that. It is what it is. But when you're the leader, you have to accept that every time you make a decision, there's a positive and a negative, and we as a society have to accept if the costs outweigh the benefits or vice versa. The media is fundamentally dishonest. They have taken a position that every single thing Trump says and does is automatically evil and wrong, and he's Hitler. They've taken that position, and they just keep going for it. Now Elon Musk is Hitler because he's throwing his heart to people. And then people comically post, all the politicians in the world from AOC to Obama and others doing the exact same thing, but it's okay there, but it's not okay there. They just have to pump that narrative. And what happens is it causes people to get brittle and angry and defensive. And they don't want to hear legitimate criticism anymore. They don't because they think all criticism is illegitimate. So all the media is accomplishing by its campaign is to basically make Trump invulnerable to criticism. And that's not healthy. You can't have a leader who can't be criticized or that people don't buy the criticism, even when they do right or wrong things. You just can't. That's not a republic. That's something else. So we have to move beyond that. And the hope is with AI, we can get there. Community notes augmented by AI, it's about 90% of the way there. And we can have a much more nuanced view of things and we can have a much more nuanced conversation about things. But it's a healthy part of society right now. And the media needs to go out of business and be replaced with new media that's held to a different standard. It's one of the worst things that ever happened to the United States was for our media to be co-opted by the left. Thoughts on a Cardano virtual machine? Starstream. What are your views on tariffs? So the Libertarian Party certainly hates them. Um, it depends on market dynamics. Tariffs are a tool that all nations use to regulate commerce when they feel that commerce in some ways is asymmetrical and unfair to the development of their markets. So here's an example. Let's say you got two steel mills, one in America, and let's say one in India. And let's say the one in America, they have to compete fairly. They have union workers, they have expensive electricity, they have expensive energy, so fuel costs to move stuff into the steel mill, and expensive shipping. Let's say in India, the government says this is a strategic interest, so we're going to give those guys free or subsidized power, low cost diesel, and huge wage arbitrage because they're ununionized and they're paid one tenth the price. All things being equal, if I'm in the construction business, which I am, If the steel is the same output, the quality is the same, why would I pay 2 to 3 times as much money for the American steel over the Indian steel? So the government has 2 options. One option is to make the Indian steel more expensive. The other option is to make the American steel cheaper. Now, we've done a lot of the second historically, massive increases in efficiency, and we can do things with 100 people that some people can't do with 5,000 people. But even after you've done all that, there's still going to be irregularities because in some cases, the governments will actually just subsidize their businesses to run at a loss. So what you do is you put a tariff on, it normalizes the prices. If people keep buying those foreign products, it does create revenue for the government. And if people realize they don't want to pay those prices, they switch over to the American products, and it onshores our industry. It creates an American-based industry. So the society has to decide what are strategic industries: steel manufacturing, concrete production, microchip manufacturing, so fab facilities, biotechnology facilities. You got to label your strategic interest technologies that employ a lot of people, and the government has to decide what degree of relationship do we want to have with them. Do we want to subsidize them or do we want to tariff their competitors? Trump's hypothesis is that trade is asymmetrical and it's not benefiting us at the moment. There are some countries where we don't charge a tariff to buy their things and they charge a tariff for us to buy, or for their people to buy our stuff. That's a problem. So at the very least, that needs to be balanced. And then second, we have to have a national conversation about what do we feel in 2025 is a strategic interest industry, and what do we want to do to protect those workers in that industry, and what relationships do we want to have? And this government has been notoriously bad, our government in general, over the last 20 years of labeling those things. There's no greater example of that than Tesla. So you have Biden say that electric cars are the future and they're a key component to solving global warming. And we, the American people, need to invest in them and subsidize them. But we don't like the politics of the guy who founded the one that controls 75% of the market. So we're going to exclude them from that conversation. What are you broadcasting to the American people when you don't invite Tesla to the White House to be at your battery car convention and you don't want to give them subsidies, but you give everybody else subsidies? That it's not about the industry and its strategic interest to the United States. It's about your politics. And if we agree or disagree with your politics, and if we agree with them, you get money, you get your Solyndra. If you disagree with them, then we harm you and investigate the CEO. Tariffs are at least a little bit more fair because they're apolitical. Tariffs benefit universally the entire industry that has to compete with these subsidized jurisdictions. So every American steel producer, every American manufacturer will benefit equally from this because they're more competitive in the price scheme now versus the other stuff. So you're not picking and choosing winners and losers. And when you help industry, you tend to pick and choose winners and losers. And that's a sore spot for me because I've seen where that can go wrong. And it's really hard to make that fair. I'd probably vote for Charles even if he trusts fascists. He himself is not one, that's clear. I'm not a fascist, guys, and I actually don't believe that the Trump administration is fascist. I really don't. I believe that they're a stronger administration and they talk very tough. But at the end of the day, I do believe that he's running the US government currently like it's his personal business, Trump Incorporated. And as a businessman, what he's doing is he's negotiating and trying to improve the KPIs of his business. The first week in office, he announces he got $1.1 trillion dollars of investments in the United States, about half from Saudi Arabia and half from the Stargate project with OpenAI and Larry and the other guys. Well, that's an amazing thing when you think about it. You say, oh, wow, it's bringing money into America. And any CEO of a business, that's the way they do that, and CEOs have their exits and their entrances. Now, we're a constitutional republic. America's not a business, but it's been run for so long, not like one, that we have invited in a culture of absolute mediocrity and no service culture in the federal government. I don't feel comfortable, and I think the vast majority of Americans don't feel comfortable with a situation of some administrative agencies having only 6% of their employees showing up for work. 6%. And they're all working remotely. Then when you audit it, it's really hard to even know if they're watching porn or whatever. And they're telling you, well, the only remedy is to not do anything about that, but raise taxes and increase the size of government. So sometimes you need somebody to come in and reevaluate the geopolitics, be a rough hand, kick the crap out of the government, cut it, and start over and reevaluate those relationships. It's not permanent. It's uncomfortable as hell. It's scary. And a lot of plates are broken along the way. You don't respond to that by saying, well, the only reason this person's doing that is because this person's an evil dictator and his sole goal is to commit genocide and murder millions of people and do all these things. Just literally, that's what they're saying. He's Hitler or Mussolini. And it's just so far out there. I've met Ivanka Trump. I've met Jared Kushner. I've met a lot of people. Don Jr. flew on our Black Hawk. And they're not these people. They really aren't. They just have an opinion about America, which some people may disagree with. Many people do. But they feel that they're Americans and their worldview is America's being screwed. And it's kind of hard to argue that when you see the Iron Dome shooting anti-aircraft and anti-missile ammunition and rockets going up from Hamas, and the United States of America paid for both sides of that. Those rockets were laundered through Iran and Turkey and came from Ukraine. And that was American taxpayer money that was spent there. And the ammunition Iron Dome we paid for. We see that as private citizens, and we say, what the hell is going on? We see Afghanistan, and we see after 20 years of fighting and an entire generation going to war and those people suffering, many coming back with their limbs blown off, permanent damage, which we clean up as best we can at our clinic from the TBIs and other things. In many cases, you can't fix it. We see that. And the outcome is we handed the country back to the Taliban, and China now owns Bagram Air Force Base. That's the outcome. And we say, gosh, who's accountable for that? Who gets fired for that? What's the remedy for this situation? And the people who aren't fascists are saying, shut the fuck up, get in the corner. If you complain about it, you're an alt-right conspiracy theorist. We're going to deplatform you. Oh, and by the way, we're going to arrest you. I'm sorry. If you're on the left, you have to take a step back from your propaganda and acknowledge the fact that it was not Donald Trump and his regime who used the Department of Justice to prosecute Hillary Clinton. It was the Biden regime who used the Department of Justice to prosecute a former U.S. president running for office again and who won. So obviously he was a credible candidate, and get him arrested and convicted on a non-crime. 34 felonies for what? Paying off a porn star, according to them. That's a misdemeanor that was upgraded to a felony. It's going to be overturned on appeal. The majority of the jury, not unanimous for the jury, voted for that. We're not really sure what the crime was, and it's a federal crime because it's a U.S. federal election, but the U.S. Attorney's Office passed, so we had a state prosecutor who campaigned on, I'm going to be the guy who puts Trump in jail. And then you have to ask yourself, who's the victim? Who's the victim? Who lost money? Who was harmed? We have people in New York City who are literally setting people on fire in the subway, dousing them in fuel and setting them on fire as people watch. And that's less of a priority than prosecuting a business documents misdemeanor crime that cost millions of dollars just so that you can get a label that this person's a felon. Was that the left or the right that did that? It was the left. Is there any acknowledgement that that was wrong? Even a step further, they went after Donald Trump for classified documents. Every president in the United States, after they leave office, in my entire lifetime, your entire lifetime, and before, maintains their security clearance, and has access to classified information, and is given briefings on regular basis about what's going on in the world, and they continue to act as an informal apparatus of the state. Don't believe me? Go to YouTube and listen to the recorded phone calls of Eisenhower talking to JFK. Bush would regularly call Bill Clinton, ask him advice. And when you have a presidential library, you have millions of classified documents. And it takes decades for those documents to all work their way through and sort it all out. Mar-a-Lago is a skiff. It was built that way for 4 years. The president operated there. They made it a secure facility to store classified information. But this president, Biden, made a decision. You know what? I'm just going to screw my predecessor and kick him out, and we're going to try him for having classified documents. Because somehow that's an impact on national security. The person that just a blink ago we trusted with our nuclear weapons and our secrets, who this nation just reelected, who is currently the president of the United States. We're going to go after him for possessing classified information. I don't know how you can feel comfortable with that and say that that was not politically motivated. And yet people label him a fascist. But then the other side, had they won, Trump would currently be in prison. The other side, had they won, we would not have free speech. And there would be criminal investigations into Elon Musk and an unraveling of his entire business empire for the audacity of voting against them. But they're not the fascists. They're honest, amazing people. They're just honest authoritarians. So then you say, well, but he's got to be beneficent and nice and kind and not retaliatory and not do anything about any of this stuff. Yeah, okay. Just not his personality. The guy is going to come in and he's just going to break the whole wheel and rebuild the whole government. And you know what? There'll be a reset in 2028. And if you are politically on the left, look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, how did you get to Kamala Harris? Did you decide that? Did you even really decide Biden in 2024? And will you accept that your political party took those choices from you? You forget that I endorsed Robert Kennedy. And I endorsed Robert Kennedy before he was an independent. So I was absolutely pushing for something new and different and for us to turn the page in America. That was stolen from Robert. That was stolen from the Democrat Party. That was stolen from the American people. You talk about investigations. This is the first time in American history that we had a coup, and you all just accepted it. You all just took it and drank it out of a cup. The president of the United States, the nominee of the Democrat Party, was put in a room, and a cabal came in and told him that if he didn't abdicate and hand his nomination to someone else, they would remove him from office with the 25th Amendment. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, that is treason to overthrow a democratically elected president. And you just took it because you thought it gave you a better chance of beating the orange man. And then when Kamala, with nobody voting for her, became the major party nominee, you just took it because you thought it gave you a good chance to beat the orange man. And now you've lost to him. You see, the only reason we lost was racism and sexism and America's love of strong men and fascists and evil people. Maybe, just maybe, the majority of Americans just don't like the lawfare. Maybe, just maybe, the majority of Americans don't like that we don't seem to have rule of law in a lot of our towns. And we're letting all kinds of people just run ruckshot over us. Maybe, just maybe, we didn't like the loss in Afghanistan or these proxy wars that have now killed 1.4 million people when you look at Ukraine, for example. And they wanted to go in a different direction, and they were fatigued and tired about what they've been told. Maybe we wanted a president of the United States who actually talks to the media and has press conferences. I've watched more press conferences in the last week and a half from the Oval Office from President Trump than I watched from Biden and his entire administration. And now the media is coming out of the woodworks and telling people, yeah, well, we kind of knew that he had dementia, but we just didn't want to say anything. There are plenty of great people on the left who are rising stars, and they have wonderful ideas, and they have a lot of integrity, and they care. You are diminishing every single thing those people think and believe by accepting corruption at this scale and abuse of the institutions of the United States. You spent 4 years lecturing all of us about how no one is above the law, and none of you cared at all when Hunter Biden got a blanket pardon for 11 years for anything. He could have raped a child. Can't prosecute him. Doesn't matter what he did. He's got a blanket pardon for all of it because political persecution. So the Department of Justice is above the fray. They're objective. Don't worry about all the political persecutions we've done. But for my son, obviously it was wrong, and we just have to give him a pardon and move on. And no one is above the law. What about all the insider trading with Nancy Pelosi? No one is above the law. No one is above the law except for the ruling class. Shut the fuck up. Get in the corner. If you mention anything about it, we'll deplatform you. You listen to Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan just recently talk about the censorship. The Biden administration came to him, told him to take things down that he knew were true. And when he said no, they opened up investigations into him. But no one is above the law. We have to reset. And you don't reset by calling the person in office a fascist. He's a strong leader and sometimes too strong. He's fully aware of the power of the U.S. government. He knows how to wield that power. And it's deeply uncomfortable because we typically do it in a more gentle way. But at least for the first time in our lives, it's an honest way. It used to be we just send the CIA and assassinate people or use drones or subtle economic manipulations, and everybody's smiling and shaking hands. He's the first president to come in and just beat the hell out of people. Say, we're just going to do it this way. And people say, actually, I really know what's going on now. Why are we tariffing Canada? Because he wants a better trade deal. You know what's probably going to happen is he'll get them to pay for the Nord Stream pipeline. Not Nord Stream, the pipeline that's coming down. I forget its name, from Athabasca. Panama. They're sure as hell going to give that canal back because they gave it to fucking China. We gave it to them for $1, said, you keep it. It's good for your economy. Just give us a good rate on the shipping. They said, no problem. 50 years later, both sides of the Panama Canal have Chinese naval bases at them. And Panama charges us more than China for going through. We're not comfortable with that. So talk big. He's going to redo that. That's a big stick. That's what Teddy Roosevelt did. Didn't have a problem with that back then. That's what America elected. Certainly not fascism. And every interaction I've had with the Trump administration, I see no evidence that they have any intention to establish a dictatorship or set up death camps and murder people, any of these things. They just don't. And I'm getting so tired of everything being Hitler, 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 Nazi, 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 Nazi. Just grow the fuck up. Honestly, grow the fuck up. Sometimes you lose. Dust yourself off, get up and move on. I did. I was kicked out of Ethereum. What did I do? Just sit at home all day and cry, wah, wah. I went and built up input output, created Ethereum, Cardano, built a $30 billion ecosystem. I'm back. I'm here. We lost the Wyoming stablecoin. I go, wow, I'm sorry. No, I set up a fucking pack. We're going to go and talk to everybody in the state, get involved in the elections, make some changes, get things done. That's America. You win, you lose. When you lose, you dust yourself off, you get back up, and you fight for the things that you believe in. You don't let anybody tell you you're not. If you're on the left and you really believe this stuff, then go and convince people and persuade people. You don't get to use the institutions of this government to force people to believe the things you believe. You don't. You don't get to enforce your language on people. You don't get to enforce your worldview on people. You have to persuade people that is the good idea. And if it is a good idea, over the long term, it will win out. That's just how it is. That's why no one cares about gay marriage anymore. It was fundamentally unfair to say that men and women could get married, but not gay couples. They love each other, let them get married. And I broke with the Republican Party so hard on that. So much criticism. You notice it's not an issue anymore. The president of the United States, who's a Republican, appointed a gay man to lead Treasury Department. One of his biggest advisors is Peter Thiel. We just don't care. We moved on because history vindicated that. It was a good idea to let people who are of the age of majority and who consent to enter into those unions. I don't have a problem with it. Vast majority of people don't. Doesn't make any sense otherwise. And that was accomplished through persuasion and through fighting. That's how it gets done. So if you believe in these things, fight for them and persuade people. But don't ever weaponize the US government to punish people who don't believe in the things and form shame mobs and all these other things and try to get people fired from their jobs and deplatformed. All you do is you create an equal and opposite reaction that hits you like a fucking truck, a tsunami, and crushes your ass. And then you just lay on the ground and say, oh, it's just not fair. These guys are all Nazis and they're all everybody's a Nazi now. Every single person's a Nazi now. Everybody's even Israel, they're Nazis now, according to you guys. Every person you disagree with is literally Hitler. So what the hell does it mean then? If everybody's racist and everybody's sexist and everybody's homophobic, what the hell does it mean? Honestly, what does that label mean? If 99% of people have a disease, I got news for you. The disease is normal. It's madness. We just can't keep doing this. We just can't. America can't keep doing this. We are dying inside. We're eating each other up. We're hating people. We're tearing people apart. We're not allowed to win. If somebody you don't like is in charge and they do something good for the country, it has to be bad and undone just because you hate the person. It's madness. It's so crazy. And nobody wants to join and participate. If I go meet the wrong people and take pictures with them, then instantly it's an endorsement and it means I believe everything they believe. I support everything that they believe, and I'm an evil human being and in with the Nazis, or vice versa. How the fuck do we make any social progress and move forward as a nation and achieve great things if that is the standard upon which you hold the American people? That everything is political. Can't even watch goddamn football anymore. It's all political. It's always political. Everything's political. Everything's quotas. Everything's this. I just want to watch football. I just want to have a conversation with a person at a bar. I just want to look at a person and not think to myself, what group does this person belong into and what political philosophy do they subscribe to so I can't risk offending them? I just want to talk to that person and say, how's the weather? And these things. And we used to be able to do that. We used to. And we're trying to get back there as a nation. We're trying so hard. But apparently everybody who's trying to do that is an evil, fascist, racist, Hitler-loving monster that we have to burn to the ground. Because we have to be back to that America where everybody's afraid. When I see things from McKinsey saying 70+% of workers in Fortune 500 companies hold beliefs that they're afraid to share with their coworkers for fear of retaliation. You're afraid to go to your job and tell people what you actually think. 70+% across the Fortune 500. You know what we call that? We call that the KGB in Russia. We call that the secret police, the Stasi in East Germany, where you think something, but you politically know enough to know that you can't reveal the truth. The most dangerous thing in the world is to tell people what actually happened. And we were literally moving towards that. And we were constructing real time before everybody's eyes a censorship apparatus. I remember when COVID leaked and everybody was saying it leaked from a lab. Duh. And if you said it on Facebook or Twitter, you would have your account banned and be deplatformed. And even today, there's so many of these mindless zombies running around saying, oh, no, it just cannot be leaked from a lab. Why would the CIA know? I'll tell you how they'll know, because they monitor the text messages of the people who work at these facilities. They do it for any critical interest infrastructure, nuclear or bioweapons, whatever. That was a bioweapons facility. And maybe, just maybe, after the employees got sick, Dr. Xi and the other people working there freaked the fuck out and started text messaging each other like, Maybe we have a lab leak. We're really concerned about a lab leak. Oh God, what do we do about this lab leak? What do we do? What do we do? And maybe, just maybe, those unencrypted or encrypted but weak communications were compromised, and our intelligence agencies, through signals surveillance, got them. That's why the FBI knows. That's why DHS knows. That's why the CIA knows. And maybe, just maybe, the financial trails of these things lead to our own NIH. That's why Fauci got his pardon and Echo Health did all their stuff. You can follow the money. So the government had every incentive to cover it up because they don't want to go down funding to build something that killed 1,000,000 Americans, that still has lingering concerns. They had every incentive to sweep it under the rug. And if we could actually have a fucking conversation for once, maybe, just maybe, we could all agree that something that kills 1,000,000 Americans is of a national interest to talk about in an adult way, in an objective way. But we can't do that. And had the other side won, I know with absolute certainty that that right would have not only been taken from us, anyone who tried to exercise it would be in prison. If that's not fascism, I don't know what is. But it's over. Charles, please don't end up in an accident doing your crazy adventures. The world needs you. Thank you, Larry. I have great people around me. They take good care of me. While we take risks, they are managed risks. So I think they're pretty good. Mhm. Watching the Grammys, Charles? No, no, I don't watch any of those shows. Going back to politics, it's like everything's political. You know, well, this album has to win because it's part of this group versus that group. It's like, oh, okay. I just don't. I just don't bother with it. Same for the Oscars. I can go get another tea. Yeah, you see, this question comes up a lot too, and it shows the extremism inside these movements. So, the vast majority of the American people, I don't think have a significant or serious issue with adult trans people. I don't. I've hired them. I work with them. I have no issue at all with that. But there's a conflation of an adult making a decision to dress a certain way, act a certain way, go on certain medications, go through medical procedures to get to an identity that they like, which I think they have a constitutional right for, and we should embrace that. And telling a 10-year-old child that they need to go on puberty blockers and go through gender reassignment surgery. And in some cases, in the state of California, for example, the schools aren't even legally allowed to tell the parents that the children express these things. Children cannot consent. They cannot consent. They can't consent to sex. They can't consent to tattoos, to alcohol use, to tobacco. And when it went from one side to the other side, and both of them seem to be the same monolith, meaning you have to agree with both things or none, that's the line that most Americans drew, and they said, "We just can't cross this line anymore." And it led to some really catastrophic debates and arguments. And at the end of the day, it meant that we forget that people are people. If you have a body dysmorphia, it doesn't matter what that dysmorphia is, whether it's gender dysphoria or if it's anorexia, It's a terrible situation because your perception of who you are as a person is different from the biological reality. And that delta causes you pain, a mental distress. So much so, in many cases, people take their own lives or they do things to harm themselves. And it's among the hardest of things to treat as a doctor. You know, you can use cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy and various substances. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work. But this particular community has one of the highest suicide rates. So when you do a medical procedure as a medical professional, you have to measure outcomes and you have to say, for the things that we're intervening with, what are the outcomes? Another big problem is that it seems like the science has been tremendously politicized. There was a study where the authors of the study refused to publish it because it disagreed with their politics, saying that the interventions that they're using don't seem to be effective and have a positive outcome. And positive outcome doesn't mean that every single person, you can find a person in the set where they've had a good thing. Positive outcome means the risks outweigh the benefits. Putting people on hormones their bodies were not designed for and doing complex surgeries on people, they typically have long-term problems. This is why you may have noticed a few decades ago, people started getting really concerned about hormone replacement therapy with women and much more careful about that for menopause treatment. And it's why bodybuilders who take a lot of testosterone and human growth hormone and steroids and other things, they tend to have really bad outcomes and die. So when you put somebody for their entire life on hormones that their bodies really aren't designed for, uh, the consequences are a much higher mortality rate. So that is your risk factor associated with that treatment. So then you have to ask yourself, what outcome would be acceptable and what alternative treatments are available? So typically that's a conversation with a medical doctor and a family, and they come together and they figure out what to do. And for every other disease condition in the United States, we seem to be totally comfortable with that conversation happening at that level. So if you have heart disease or cancer, and by the way, cancer in particular is a great example because you get to these points where fighting the cancer may actually be worse off than just succumbing to it. So you have a metastatic stage 4 cancer. Many of you listening know somebody or have either personally experienced in your own family that horror. I've seen it many times. And you say, well, look, we can give you the chemo, we can give you the surgeries, we can do all these things. Maybe you get an extra month or two, but you're not going to live. The cancer is going to kill you. And if we do these interventions, your quality of life for the last part of your life is going to be pretty terrible. So maybe, just maybe, we just go into palliative care and we just kind of ride this one out as far as we can take it, but we don't intervene because the consequences of intervention are pretty terrible. Every oncologist has 100 of these stories. Back surgeries are another great example. A lot of people listening have back pain, back problems, and they say, well, we can operate on your back. It's not intrinsically clear if a back surgery is actually going to fix your problem. In many cases, it makes it worse. So you have that debate and discussion with medical professionals, and nobody seems to have a problem with it happening there. But for this particular issue, it seems to be that the federal government has to step in and say, we are not going to do this on a case by case basis, but we have decided the only legitimate treatments and protocols and actions and activity. Children are highly malleable. There's at least one kid who identifies as trans at 10 years old, who by the age of 18 doesn't do that anymore and is perfectly fine. Some people, when they're growing up, want to be cops and pirates and astronauts, and they get out of it, and other people don't. That's why you look at these things on a case by case basis. But then to say what we're going to do is indulge and embrace it, cut the parents out, and the state of California made that decision, and then commit them to therapies which have permanent consequences decades later in their life is one of the most unethical things that has ever been done in the medical establishment. And anybody who seems to stand up against this is labeled as anti trans. I'm sorry, these are just different topics and issues. And it's something that a lot of people, especially medical professionals, care very deeply about. And they were just blown away by how violent the counter reaction is. In fact, people threatening to take their medical licenses away. So that's why I don't think it's a human rights thing. I think it's more a predictable counter reaction, and it went way too far in one direction. And now, unfortunately, the pendulum is swinging, and it's a gross instrument. So that nuance is lost. From my part, I have no problem with people that make these types of decisions as long as they're consenting adults. And I have no problem working with them. I have no problem, collaborating, building things. And there's no discrimination there. They're human beings, and they should be treated with empathy and sympathy. And I think we should love them just like we love each other. Okay, but we have a duty as a society to protect children. And I'm sorry, children cannot consent. Children are highly malleable. Children are easy to influence. They can be convinced of things that aren't true. And we've seen that again and again and again in policy. And if there's going to be a medical intervention, the medical intervention needs to be a discussion between the family of the children, the child, and the physicians. And we need to get the government the hell out of this whole thing. Absolutely the hell out of this thing. And it is a terrible thing to invest in junk science. If you're going to do a drastic intervention that requires a surgical or chemical intervention, which could have permanent, irreversible consequences, you have to have an incredibly high bar of evidence that that intervention will result in a positive outcome for the aggregate. And what metrics would we trust then? Patient satisfaction, hard to measure. Suicide rates, well, we don't know. And with dysmorphias, they're exceedingly difficult because there's triggers that come in. If you're anorexic and somebody looks at you the wrong way, the first thought you think is, well, that person thinks I look overweight and my body is wrong and I look terrible. Maybe you have some dust on your coat from chalk, but that's your first thought. And no amount of therapy can completely get rid of that. So there's an imposter syndrome associated with these things. So trying to get closer and closer to something, it's an unachievable target in many cases. So a large part of the treatment protocol has to be creating therapeutic structures where people can create a merged identity and feel comfortable in their own skin. And you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, even if you have no malady until you're in your mid 20s and 30s. People grow up. It takes time to build an identity. And you don't doubt me, then go talk to a 16-year-old and come back 10 years later, come back 10 years later, talk to them at 26 and talk to them at 36. And you tell me if they're a different person or the exact same person. You tell me. George Washington was a rebel outlaw and just very arrogant, and he was doing all kinds of shenanigans when he was in his teens, and he was so arrogant he couldn't even admit he didn't speak French, caused a huge political incident, started the French and Indian War almost. And then at the other side of his life after he grew up, he didn't take absolute power when he had a chance to become a king. The George Washington in his teens would have never taken that deal. So people change. So why are we taking a snapshot of your identity, saying that's your permanent thing, and we have to follow it all the way through? Doesn't make any sense at all. And the people who believe in these things, I don't understand it. And even if they do, that's fine. It's their right to talk about it. But they shouldn't mandate that that is the only policy of the United States of America. And anybody who disagrees with it's evil person and is harming human rights and torturing people and these types of things. It's a pretty sad situation. Yeah, this is a great question. Advice on love. So it's pretty simple. Just see the best in people. Every single person that you meet, there's something about that person that you can compliment. Abraham Lincoln used to say, to paraphrase him, that I don't like this man. It must mean I don't know him well enough. And I think that's really the case. You have to step aside and take the person's politics, physical appearance, their mentality and personality, and all these other things, and just take them out for a moment and just look at that person and play an exercise and say, for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to find something to like about this person, something positive to say about this person. Many of you know, for example, that I have strong disagreements at times with, Vitalik Buterin, but as an exercise, it's pretty easy for me to compliment him. He's a genius, and he has a high degree of internal integrity, and he's an inspiring leader for the people who like him. And I fully acknowledge that. And that's how you get to love is that even in the people that you most strongly disagree with, you have grievances with, and in some cases you think they personally harmed you. You can find aspects of those people that are good and positive, and you can build from there. It doesn't mean that you concede all the things that they've done wrong and you forgive them and you let all these things go. Um, that's a different matter, but it does mean that you can at least acknowledge their humanity and see greatness in that. You see this a lot in sports where people have legendary rivalries with each other, like Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady or whatever, and they have a great degree of admiration and respect, even though they're fighting against these guys and they're doing everything in their power to make that person lose. They can respect that that person they're playing against is a worthy adversary. In business, you see this as well. There's plenty of great entrepreneurs in the cryptocurrency space, and we got outplayed in the Wyoming stablecoin side, for example. I didn't imagine that the processes of Wyoming could be so broken that Consensus could install their own guy and Circle can install their own person and they can just run buckshot over everybody. Because in the long term, it's not going to work. But the intent wasn't to actually build a stable coin. It was to derail Wyoming's stable coin and deny the state actually having something viable. Because the greatest possible competitor to Circle was the Wyoming stablecoin if it was built the right way. They go around the world telling everybody, well, we're Ned Flanders, we're Mr. Regulated. Look how great we are. Look how smart we are and how capable we are. No matter how regulated you are, you're not a US state issuing an asset. That's a different matter. You can't pay your taxes with Circle, but you potentially could with the right structure of a Wyoming stablecoin, but it had to be built in a certain way. So the easiest way to get rid of that, if you can't politically get rid of that, is put your own people in and then build it in a way which creates incentives for people to basically destroy it. It's pretty clever. You got to admire them for that. You do. You know that they know how to do this, embrace and extinguish. Wall Street does it all the time. So you learn from these things, and you say, "All right, well, we got to cover our six a little bit more and be better at this type of stuff." And that's fine. You move on. But love is that's where love comes from. Is that just feeling of respect and admiration and finding nice things. And then there's a wonderful thing you can do called loving kindness, compassion meditation, where you just, meditate and try to really find a way to love everybody around you. And there's plenty of books written about it and these other things. And the people who do it, they live incredibly well. That's why you see those smiling, happy monks like Matthew Ricard, or others who've been Buddhist meditators for 40 years, whose names I can't pronounce. Sorry, I don't speak Vietnamese and Hindi. I'm into rust-free older trucks. Do you see many in Colorado? The problem is the most reliable trucks are the most likely to be the ones that are old, that are broken. We run into this with my contracting company. I think I own like 50 to 70 trucks. I don't even know how many trucks we end up having in that damn thing. You go up to Gillette, you'll see our logo on all these Fords and Chevys. I'm a Chevy man, but they all buy Fords up there because my brother and dad are Ford fans. The F-350s and 150s. You're in crypto, not politics, man. Sorry, man. Crypto ate politics. President issued a meme coin. Welcome to the future. Mhm. Mhm, mm. Mhm, 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 mhm. Mhm. How will Stargate help in cancer treatments? The existence of a super intelligence is going to basically change everything. Every research line, every drug discovery, every single thing you can imagine to do, it's going to fundamentally change as a direct result of having AGI, and we're very close to it. O3 is almost there. It's probably the last model before we say with certainty. Llama 4 is looking really good, and I think the dual former architecture is going to do a lot of great stuff. And when you look at like the evolutions of Claude and also the low cost Chinese models, which are synthetic derivations, there's this latter phenomena where the model enables you to build a better model that's both more effective and cheaper to run. And then that model allows you to build another model that's both more effective and cheaper to run. You keep walking it up. So you increase the computation. And that's really what is so exciting about this. So probably about 5 years to 10 years before you start seeing those social impacts. But overall, it's already moving in that direction. It's profoundly changing everything. We have a whole AI working group, and we have what's called big and little strategy. Big strategies on a quarterly basis. We take one question, we put AI PhDs on it, and we have them ask the question, try to answer the question with enormous amount of compute and these models. Little is where we develop business processes and we integrate those business processes into everyday things like reviewing PowerPoint slides or scheduling meetings or these types of things. And you have to do both to transform an organization. Mhm, mhm, mhm. We're up to 52,000 listeners. How about that? That's pretty cool. Grizzly, can we agree that line dancing to literally every song is ridiculous? Well, I have to stay popular in the state of Wyoming, so I'm not gonna comment on line dancing. Gotta stay popular. If you were a fish, what kind of fish do you think you would be? Man, that's a hard one. I mean, like sea creature, do I have to choose fish or can I be a fish? I know lionfish are pretty cool. They're hard to kill. Will Nami Lace get a mobile app? Yes, we're working on it. Wow, these questions are brutal. Well, Morgan, you can give me a hard question. Any question you want, I will answer it. Give me a really, really hard question. Come on, you got this. You got this, man. Every now and then I like seeing these things. Let's see. Is it technically possible for integration of Midnight with Jam Polkadot? What do you think about Jam? We're looking at Jam, and there is a path to integration if we so choose, given that we're on the substrate infrastructure. So we're definitely thinking about it. It's pretty fun and exciting. No, you can be an octopus. That's what I think. Well, of course I'd be an octopus if I could be a mollusk. Yeah. Is that a fish? Does that count as fish? Cephalopod. Do you believe in any of that Q stuff? No. Is there anything you won't eat? I won't eat babies. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, baby back. Release baby back ribs. Barbecue sauce. Them songs are just so in your mind and you can't get them out. That's a meme, man. It's self-replicating. When is the Alien documentary on Netflix coming out? Probably this year or next year. The guy who made it is notorious for spending a long time making stuff, so we'll see. I think he's waiting for Avi to go back for round 2 to get some more footage. But it'll be fun. Like 20, 30 million people will watch it. Any news from Mongolia and Cardano? I've been wanting to do something substantive in Mongolia in a long time, and it'd be fun to actually do a Wyoming Mongolia deal. Um, there's some discussion in Wyoming about a gold-backed stablecoin. It'll be real cool to do that, and Mongolia would be really cool to do as like an international partner for it. Who knows? We'll see. I know the gold people over there. You look very optimistic. That's contagious. It's not a question. It's true. You know, some of the things that I get asked and I deal with, there's frustration because I know I'm going to win. I know in the long term I'm going to win. But it's just like, do I really have to do this? It's you ever watch that show Cops? You know, bad boys, what you gonna do? Okay, I used to watch that show. I was a degen before you guys were degens. I watched wrestling and Cops and these other things. And there's always that one episode where there's this dude and he's always shirtless. I don't know why their shirts disappear, but he's shirtless. And he just takes off. And he's like overweight and clearly not in running shape. And the cop is just like, I'm gonna catch you. You know I'm gonna catch you. You know I know. I know you know I know. I'm gonna catch you. Okay. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm gonna tackle your ass. But you're gonna make me do it. I gotta go run after this fat guy, shirtless, doing his thing, tackle him onto the ground. It's oily for some reason. They're always doing something. They always got that baby oil. Maybe they're at a Diddy party. Who knows? And he's just running. And that's where we're at with a lot of these things. It's like, we're gonna win. Cardano's gonna win. The triumvirate's gonna win. America's gonna win. But god damn it, we gotta chase the fat, oily guy. And it's a tough thing. You gotta sprint, and he's got a little bit of a head start. And when you grab him, he's oily, so he slips off of your hands, and then you start wigging out and all that shit. And then it's hard to handcuff him. And then when you do, you have to carry him because he's like passively resisting you. So you have to have 3, 4 cops to pick him up and carry him to the squad car. And all you police officers listening, been around for a while, you know what I'm talking about, man. You know, you've dealt with this. I saw it. You know it in your heart. And you know how I feel. You really do. You're just like, yeah, that sucks. And that's where I'm at right now. There's all this stuff we got in the fire, and I'll catch the fat guy, okay? I promised you I was gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We'll get the fat guy. But I just don't want to chase the fat guy. And so get off my ass and go do it. It's like the politics thing. It's like a fine, get in the fray. We'll go do these things. We'll go to certain places, meet certain people, take certain pictures. You guys will love it. It'll be great. It's a lot of work. But we got to do it. And it's my job. And it's what I signed up for. There's good days and hard days. I just wish every now and then the guy just doesn't run, right? Can I have one fucking day where we don't have the fat guy? Yeah, well, that's the new thing. We didn't have that when I was watching Cops back in the day. What's your favorite color? Black. Do you think we'll reach Alpha Centauri within the next 20 years? Yuri Milner is certainly working on it. Those light sails are really, really interesting. I think within 50 to 100 years, there's a very strong possibility a light sail will get there. What would your wrestler name be and special move? Interesting. I got to think that one through. Yeah, this guy gets it. Diddy oil, cops, Cardano handcuffs, 2025. It's wild, man. Well, you see, We's just got to do all the Diddy parties with the oil and the Cardano and the cops and the fat guys. They travel at 20% the speed of light, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you gotta accelerate for a long time, then you gotta slow down for a long time. Just think about that, like, slowing down from 20% the speed of light. It's pretty fucking crazy, man. Comment on deep underground military bases, lots of cement. I cannot confirm or deny what our cement division is doing, but we do pour a lot of cement, like a lot of cement. Solana never has to tackle the fat guy. Solana is the fat guy. You don't understand the analogy. Oh, man. 55,000 people. What else we got here? Talk more about the demons you encountered in the cave. Oh, boy. That was a tough one. That was a really tough one. So, uh, I saw on YouTube and all these interviews, Aaron Rodgers and these other people, I was, darkness retreat, that's the way to go. It's really hardcore. And I was like, oh, okay, this sounds interesting. Yeah, that's right up my cup of tea. So I said, it would be really fun to do like a 5-day thing. I go in, just get my ass kicked and head on out. So I was trying really hard to get it into a time slot where it would work in the schedule. And Chelsea tried, she's my EA, as hard as she could, but the only way the time could work was like literally before basically an executive offsite that we had in California. So I said, all right, well, I'll try. Yeah, but I was a little nervous about it. I said, I just not taking it as seriously as I need because everybody says this is going to be a really hard experience. So I get to this place that I do the darkness retreat at, and I first meet the guy, and I think this dude spent way too long in darkness. He's like, "Welcome to the darkness, Charles. Let the darkness go inside of you." And anyway, I go downstairs into like this cave where the thing is at, and while I'm in the cave, it's really cold and clammy, and there's not a lot of air flowing through, and it's kind of suffocating, and they kinda shut that door and it's pitch black, and the first few hours were very peaceful. I said, "Oh, this is so nice. It's so good to finally be able to rest and relax." So then I go to sleep, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and I got the sleep paralysis demon. So basically, that's the thing, like, it's sitting on your chest, you see something, you can't move, and you can't breathe, and you feel like you're literally being choked to death, and that's how it started, and I was like, "Oh, fuck. This is gonna be bad. This is gonna be so bad." And, every hour thereafter, it got worse and worse and worse. I eventually could breathe, but, started seeing things in the shadows and hearing things, and that place was haunted, man. And I had to kinda get to that, point, like, do I really want to keep this going? Because it's gonna fuck me up, and I'm gonna be like a POW or, prisoner coming out of the hole, and I literally have to go to an executive summit where all my executives are at and, like, make major business decisions. What if this really mentally fucks me up? So I had a satellite phone that I snuck in, and I went and pulled it out of the closet, opened it up, and I had to do all this in the dark, by the way. I had to bathe in the dark and eat in the dark and all this stuff. And I managed to get the thing on and get a signal and called my security detail, and I'm like, "Get me the hell out of here, guys." So they showed up, and Mr. Darkness was a bit surprised. He's like, "Where did these guys come from?" I was like, "We got it from here, sir." They extracted me. Real strange place, though, and real strange guy. I think there's a lot of value in what he's putting together. I just think that it needs to be structured in a different way, and also you have to have a lot more prep work going into it for it to be successful. So I will go to a darkness retreat proper with the appropriate preparations and work, and also do it where I have a little bit of time to recover on the other side of it. So I didn't take it as seriously as it needed to be taken, and I'm kinda sad about that because I love doing these things, but, when it's like The Ring, the girl coming out of the TV and eating you up, yeah, it's like, "Nah. Nah, man, homie, don't play with that. That's not good." Probably what I'll do is I'll build a darkness retreat on my ranch, and what I'd like to do is make it a group activity and build a great hall, almost like a cylinder with a dome on the top deep underground, and then you have rooms that connect to it, and, basically, then you have a lower chamber that you can go into for total isolation, and everybody just basically lives in the same space for 5 to 7 days, and there's, facilitators that are there, and you're doing group activities and all this other stuff, and you're functionally getting used to basically being blind. What's nice too is in that kind of construction, you can bring accessibility engineers in who understand, how to design things for blind people, and they can help you figure out how to make it safe and navigatable and, get people used to it. I think that's gonna be a much, much better experience for everybody, and if you do want that deep isolation, you can go into the vaults deep underground and spend some time there, but it's, too much all at once. You get the extreme sensory deprivation and dopamine detox, but at the same time, you're basically in a prison camp. It's too much. What happened to Hosk Said? I think they took it down. I actually don't know. I kinda miss it. How is Project Mobius going? We got like 50 resumes or something like that. Mobius helps us go into Quantum Hosky. So we'll do the Mobius thing as a beta test for Quantum Hosky. I volunteer for the Bison Ranch Darkness Retreat. Will there be ketamine? Maybe. Is Joey Lubin pulling an Emperor of Japan strategy over Ethereum with Vitalik? Wouldn't surprise me. Joe's an operator, man. Talk about people that, you can see the good things or at least the talents that they have. That dude's a boss. He's very good at running his empire. Eh, he's a man of so little words too. Like a journalist will ask him this big question, he'll be like, "Yes, no, perhaps." Would you rather make out with JJ or pay Gary Gensler a compliment? I will pay Gary Gensler a compliment. No offense to JJ, but it's easy to pay the guy a compliment. I have never in my life seen a bureaucrat so effective at taking an agency that most people don't care about and making it the most hated agency in the United States. You could literally set up a government working group that's sole purpose is to murder puppies, and that group would probably have a higher approval rating than what Gary did to the Securities Exchange Commission. You have to be so talented to make people hate you that much. Scary Gary, man. Scary Gary. He's one of a kind. And now he's at MIT and he's teaching again. And one of these, I got to have dinner with him one of these days and just be like, how much of that bullshit did you actually believe versus how much was just because you thought Elizabeth Warren make you Treasury Secretary at some point? Come on, be honest. You gotta be honest, Gary. Gary, you gotta be honest. We will put him in as a character in Quantum Hosky. I think Scary Gary would be a phenomenal character. He actually attacks your person, drains your ADA, and drains your stuff. So very terrifying. Can't quite get rid of it. You just banish it for a little bit. We'll base it on it. There's actually several people that I would love to put in Quantum Hosky. Several people that I've met throughout my life that I think would make great characters in that game. Well, this was what I was saying, send somebody to his class. It would be really cool, just somebody just show and just smile. It would really fuck with him. He'd just be like, the entire time, say nothing. If you ask questions, just say nothing, just follow him around smiling. Just get in his mind. Gotta play the mind game. Ah, we got a winner. All right, Matt. He's the smiler. I think the problem that politicians don't understand is that, and maybe this is the issue I'm running in Wyoming, that, politics so transactional, like people stabbing in the back all the time. You're like, that was like 3 stabs in the back ago. We actually take things pretty seriously in the cryptocurrency space. We don't forget. We remember. We keep grudges, and we're like, fuck those guys. And if it takes 10 years, it takes 10 years. Nobody forgot about Ross Ulbricht. 11 years, they got him out. We don't leave our own behind. We really don't. And it's the same for Roger Ver. We're gonna get that guy out of this. And the same for CZ. He deserves a pardon. He does. And I'm gonna tell the president that. I'm gonna tell other people that. He absolutely deserves a pardon. Why do you do an AMA? I do it for you guys so that you can hear my thoughts on things. You might hate them, you might love them, you may disagree with them. They'll certainly be used against me at some point in the future in lawsuits and politics. But you know what? It's for you. Do you have any plans to meet with Ross Ulbricht? I've met his mom, and I sent some messages out their way, and, his number one priority is just recover. 11 years in maximum security prison with a life sentence, it's too much. He's gonna need to take some time off, and then after that, if he wants to do anything in the cryptocurrency space, Ross has earned the right to basically name his price. It was kinda like when Sam Altman got kicked out of OpenAI, every single person called him and said, "Hey, you just let us know, we got your back." So, it's very much the same for Ross. Whatever he wants to do, he's earned it, and, if he wants to do something in our neighborhood, we're happy to help, but, let him take some time off. What do you think about MBOs that ban Iranian users as a result of sanction? I live in Iran and debate my life. I is probably saying devote my life to Cardano. That's something that makes me sad, which is why I think there needs to be multiple members-based organizations instead of one canonical members-based organization. The world is unfortunately multipolar with great powers conflict, and what that translates to is you need to have aggregation groups for everybody. And you'll notice when we do these workshops, we try really hard to be as inclusive as possible. So if Intersect is not the horse to ride on for geopolitical reasons, there should be one elsewhere. Both matter, and both should feed up to an on chain government, which does not discriminate. There's no citizenship requirements for that. Do you trust OpenAI? Only as far as I can throw it. Tropic Thunder was underrated. It was a swan song for a dying genre. It was the bookend to Blazing Saddles, and we'll never see another movie like that again. Maduro, the cigars, the playoffs. He's gone. They're gonna get rid of him. Any thoughts on Caitlin Long and the Custodia Bank's application being stalled? Caitlin is a good friend of mine. I just ran into her the other day. She was there when I met with all lawmakers. What happened to her was just a travesty, and it is something that should never happen. And I think at some point that's going to get resolved, but it's a legacy of just how terrible Operation Choke Point was, which we were told apparently never happened if you're politically on the left. even though we have the documents to prove it. Age of Empires 2 was awesome. We need this on Cardano. I hadn't considered an Age of Empires style Hydra RTS. Hmm. I hadn't considered that. Hmm. Mhm, 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 mhm. Let's go. Yeah, Angry Crypto gets it. Yeah, come on, man. Age of Empires. Y'all would play with me? Get some Hydra action with that? Charles, will you come to Europe? I don't know if we sanction them and you like got the tariffs and all the other things, then maybe they won't give me a visa. Who knows? Command and Conquer generals. Maybe a little racist. Just a little. Decent game though. Age of Vampires. You know, Troika Games did a wonderful series of games on vampires. It's a damn shame that that studio went out of business. They were so good. You know, Arcanum and these other things, just so good. Oh, Matt, yeah, 3DO, such a good company. They did Heroes of Might and Magic, the Might and Magic series. John Van Craighaven was the guy who ran it. Um, and he kinda let the company slip ahead of him a bit. You know, I always wanted to buy the IP for Heroes, and unfortunately, it went to Nival, and then, Ubisoft has it now. And they've done a decent job, with it, but, like, it was always a life dream of mine to remake Might and Magic 6 and Might and Magic 7. I thought that it would just be so cool to modernize that. And, you know, we're kinda in the age where we probably can just do that anyway, like, as a fan thing, as a mod, but, super cool stuff. It was a very innovative game for its time. Got long in the tooth by Might Magic 8. You're sleeping? Sleeping? It's not entertaining to you? Well, okay, if that's not entertaining, I'll just show you guys something new. Alright. I'm a man of my word. Baby Sneck people asked me on an X Space, they said, "Charles, if we send you a baby Sneck, will you talk about it?" And I said, "Absolutely. If you send me a baby Sneck, I will talk about it." I don't know if it's a scam. I don't know anything about the project. I think it's associated with Sneck, maybe. I don't know. They sent me one, and I'm a man of my word. I said I would talk about it. I would show it. It is not an endorsement. Please don't go and pump it 10x because you always blame me on the other side. I am just showing you this baby cute Sneck that they sent me to my office, and I shall leave it in my office. Right over here. There we go. You guys. All right. Now, we can, if you want to, go into full degen mode. You guys want to do full degen mode? You want to be a Cardano degen? What do you think? Huh? Change format? Slight change? Huh? Maybe? Maybe? All right, fuck it. Let's do it. Let's see here. Hmm. There we go. Okay. So open up my little Lace wallet. Yeah, boy. All right. Put this over here so we can see both screens at the same time. Got a little bit of ADA. Cardano's down 10%. Oh, God, it's 81 cents. My God. Ugh. Ugh. These markets. All right. Let's see here. We use Dex Hunter. We've used MinSwap. We've used Wing Riders. Let's do JPEG Store. I haven't done JPEG Store in a while. All right. Let's see here. How do I connect my wallet with JPEG Store? Yeah, there we go. Be like, hey, do you want to connect your wallet? Yeah, fuck yeah, I want to connect my wallet. And we are connected, sir. Sir. Ma'am. All right, let's see what we got here. Well, that looks pretty cool. Clay Nation. Floor is 440, top offer. It's a lot of ADA. Fuck. Space Bugs are still trading. You got Sneckies, Husky, Cash Grab. Wow, that looks pretty cool. What do we got here? What do you think, guys? That looks pretty cool. Oh, this is for trim. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna buy one of those. Husky Cash Grab. There, we're just gonna go ahead and purchase that. We're gonna confirm that. Okay. And let me stop my screen real quick so I can go ahead. Enter my password. All done. Okay, so I just bought some Cash Grab. There we go. Got a little NFT. That's kind of cool. See, it's got the 3D glasses and all that other stuff. We're doing it like a Bob Ross NFT thing. So we got a little of that. What else we got here at JPEG Store? We're going full degen. I got some Book.io, Gutenberg Bible, Boss Cat, Clay Nation, Wi-Fi. Ooh. Anything interesting here? Auto harvesting. Net, auto harvesting, KYC less hedge fund staking. Interesting. Well, it says that's not available for sweep. Oh, well. Okay. Well, we looked at them. What else we got? House of Titans. Tappy by Tap Tools. Oh, the Tap Tools Tappy. We like Tap Tools Tappy. Come on now, Tap Tools Tappy. Oh, look at all these Tap Tool Tappies. Ah, it's like Cyborg Tap Tool Tappy. That's like too cool for his own good. This guy's a douchebag. He's just trying too hard. He really is. He's having fun. Oh, he's so stoned. He's so high. That Tappy. He voted for Harris. What are we doing here? Bum, 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 bum. See, this is me trying new things. So, like, what do you guys think? Which one of these Tappies emphasizes that I've flipped a page and I'm trying new things? You know, my first love has always been Cardano, and I am just going to buy this because it is my first love. So we'll go ahead and enter that in, and we'll go ahead and buy that. There we go. See why I want the YubiKey integration, Brandon? So I just tap it. Live stream purchases are kind of my thing. All right, so we got those. Now let's go ahead and buy some tokens, huh? Let's see here. Use Sunday. We used Dex Hunter the other day. We used MinSwap the other day. Oh, you know what? There is CSwap. See what we got here with CSwap Finance. Launch application. Let's try this out. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Bootstrap event. Connect my wallet. We are whitelisted, yo. All right, what do we got for trade? As a connect the wallet, deposit, unlock more tokens, receive sweet swap. Ah, okay. So that's not there. And that's on the liquidity side. All right, we'll come back to CSwap later. Let's go for another exchange. Measly Swap. Oh, actually, I haven't seen them in a long time. They need some love. Let's give these guys some love. Do. All right, we're going to connect my lace. Get some lace. We're going to authorize that. Hell yeah, yo. Select your display handle. Charles the Snack. Charles at Ada Wallet. Charles at X Handle. Charles at Cabal. All right, we'll do that. All right, let's see what options we have here. He is a good pig, isn't he? We like Nike. All right, guys, what should I get? Come on, comment section. There's 62,000 of you. This is your chance to make me a bag holder for your thing. BLC? What's BLC? I don't know about that. Blast the Chad. Stuff token. Avid Research. Pirate NFT. Boo. TRTL. TRTL. Turtle? Oh, man. I know it's going to 0, but I'm still going to buy $5 worth. Confirm trade. It's just a cute turtle. Come on now. Actually, I thought about writing a book one time, Topology for Turtles. You guys like turtles? A little topology. Okay, there we go. We got some of the turtle money. Good. What else you guys got for me? About $5 worth of turtle. Why not? There you go. Hosky. Don't ask me about Hosky. Kopi. No, I bought some the other day. Strike? The hell is Strike? It's DeFi? Like Snick? Strike? Let's see what's going on here. Do. Fuck it. I'll get $20 worth of Strike. Okay. I am a bag holder now. There we are. Stop that. Okay. Order has been placed. I'm a proud new owner of some Strike. There we go. How about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you can see the wallet here. You guys keep sending me stuff. Lots and lots of thanks. Although I got some Charles token. That's the real one, not the fake one. And we got shit token. Icon. Do. Yeah, how about that? This is the magic of cryptocurrencies and what we've constructed here as an ecosystem. I opened up a wallet in my browser while doing a live stream real time, took some ADA, bought some NFTs, bought some projects, and did it on DEXs. No exchanges, completely decentralized. You're in charge. That's how we do it. And that's what we built. And over the coming months and years, what's going to occur is we're going to just keep adding more capabilities. All that microfinance stuff is going to find its way into Lace. And remember back in the day in Kiva where I gave out loans to people, I will do that through Lace. And it's going to be amazing. Remember back in the day where, we talked a lot about DApp stores, DApp Explorer. We already have a DApp Explorer now. The store will get bigger. Games are coming into Lace. Going to put a Nintendo emulator into Lace, so that you can play original IP that we create at Husk Brew and the industry as a whole creates. And hopefully we can work with stuff for licenses on that stuff. So you actually not only buy it, you can have an FT associated with it. We can embed those inside the cartridges when you want to buy physical media. It's going to go multi-chain and the markets will get larger. Latency is looking good. I executed all those orders. They've already settled. It's already in my wallet and it's real time. It used to be hours to do that type of stuff. So when you widen the aperture and you see these types of things are definitely moving in the right direction. And as much as we like to vetch about stuff, it's actually it's moving in the right direction. People are happy. Markets go up, markets go down. It's a downtime. Tomorrow they'll go back up. We'll be fine. And we got good leadership. Things are taking time to work their way through, but every single person is picking up a shovel and getting it done. And a certain somebody would be a great character for Quantum Hosky. I definitely have some ideas. And until next time, everybody, thank you so much for listening. This has been a fun 2.5 hours. I've really enjoyed it. Love all of you. We laughed, we cried, we got frustrated about some things, politically ranted. We ended up becoming degens in the end. Cheers.